Okay, I'm gonna call the meeting to order, May 19th, Select Board meeting. First order of business, pledge of allegiance. Pledge of allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Consider of any changes, additions, or removals to the agenda.
Yes, sir. So we can, if you would, we will strike 3B, approval of minutes until the June meeting. And then if we can, we will strike agenda item 11. And agenda item 15 will be addressed at the June meeting.
Okay. Okay, moving on, approve minutes of previous meeting, April 7th, 2025. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second. Any discussion? Being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Guys opposed? Ayes have it. Comments from citizens? Okay, department head reports for April.
Mr. McNamara,
Sir.
under the PD monthly report, it is a new format. Again, congratulations to Sergeant Warfel, now Chief Warfel, but his format is a little different. So I'm wondering what the code types are.
I can get a list for the board, so, and that'll be, I'll ask him to publish this maybe on the, put a ledger on the report as well.
That would be
Just gonna
great. And Mr. Whalen, great big month of April for you. I appreciate all your hard work. Looks like you've combined the Ludlow Ambulance Service with the Ludlow Fire Department. You're overseeing both with help from Ms. Stephanie Grover. Everything looks great. The only question I had for you tonight was, how was your Ocala, Florida trip?
Brad Whalen, Ludlow Fire Department. Yes, we made a trip. The vendor that we selected for the purchase of the tower and the engine requested that we go to the their facility in Ocala, Florida, on their dime to do pre-builds of both trucks. And I will say we flew out on a Sunday and spent Sunday night touring some facilities, and then we were at the plant from about 7:30 a.m. till about 7 p.m. on Monday and Tuesday night, working through both trucks, and then left at 3 a.m. on Wednesday morning. So I think the trip was fruitful in the fact that just helping ensure that we get equipment that is to our needs and not something that it shows up and boy, I wish we did this differently. So I think it was really a good experience, and I'm confident in what we'll see in the future. Did have some communications with them. I got to meet the president of the company. I'm, knock on wood, a little hopeful maybe we'll see the engine sooner than 2 to 3 years, maybe closer to that 2-year mark. And I think the platform will still be some extended time out. As we talk about that, it's off topic on that necessarily, but the platform's been out of service for about a week and a half due to the ladder not wanting to go up in the air. But they were able to address that, and it's back in service tonight. So
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Any other discussion on department head reports? Okay, moving on. Review and possible approved liquor licenses.
So you have 2 proposed liquor licenses. One is for the Loft. The other is for the Downtown Grocer. Both were approved and are approved for recommended to be approved by Chief Warfel. You have that letter. So we can do those separately if you'd like.
I would make a motion to approve the Downtown Grocery liquor licenses.
Second.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Guys opposed? Ayes have it.
I would also like to make a motion to approve the loft liquor licenses.
Second.
Open for discussion. Being no discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Guys opposed? Guys have it. Okay. Appoint Recreation Committee members for a 1-year term.
So though you have those letters in front of you for the rec committee, again, as Brett said, it's a 1-year term. Those letters are from Patrick Gray, Frank Province, and Melissa Selleck.
And how many are we to appoint?
3.
Oh,
Easy enough.
I'd like to make a motion that we keep all 3 on the board.
Second.
Open for discussion. Being no discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
aye.
Guys opposed? Ayes have it. Award bid for Little League Field reclamation.
So at long last, we're going to be able to finally clean up and basically reclaim what was the old Little League field. As I made mention in our last meeting, and in kind of an unfortunate turn of events, a little bit, some of the funding that was going to be used or possibly used for flood mitigation in that area was, killed at a federal level, unfortunately. So, we had, excuse me, we had been working through some ideas on how to utilize that space as flood mitigation, flood storage. A group of folks went down, and I think some of the board members went down to Brattleboro and toured the facility down there where they lowered the elevation by, I think it was 6 to 8 feet there. So that project, unfortunately, is not going to happen. But with that being said, we're still moving forward with kind of reclaiming that area, which will be removal of all of the debris that's there, the excess debris that was stored there during the flood, fencing, the backstop on the Little League field as you pull in on the left, the backstop in the dugouts that were not damaged during the flood are going to stay now. They weren't damaged. They can be there at some point. If kids want to play pickup there, whatever, we can do that. I just don't see the point in taking out something that wasn't damaged now that we kind of had to pivot there a little bit. So after that's all done, it will be overhauled. It'll be top dressed, seeded, and it'll just be a grass area that we're going to mow and maintain. And if we need to, it will be still a floodplain. So it's going to do its part, but we're not going to have anything there that unfortunately could be damaged. So we put those out to bid. As you can see, the low bid was Slate Rock Timber LLC at $7,950. It was by far the low bid. So we did follow up with all and make sure the specs were correct and everything was apples to apples, which it was. So my recommendation is Slate Rock Timber LLC for that project.
What department's going to pick up mowing?
That'll be buildings and grounds. The water department handles mowing around and maintenance around the pump house that is there. But again, will it be in every, a weekly thing? No, it'll be, we'll mow it a couple times a year until we have an actual plan. If we have something that's functional down there, maybe we'll keep it a little more, keep it shorter. But to this point, we'll mow it a couple times a year as needed.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the Slate Rock Timber LLC bid.
Second.
Any discussion? Being no discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Guys opposed? Guys have it. Review short-term rental registry and possible next steps.
So we have Mrs. Carter provided us with an ordinance, drafted ordinance to operate short-term rentals. You have that. I would ask, Terry's here. Terry, if you can give us an overview of it. This is something that, the board is seeing right now, what our next steps are. I think is something will be discussed here tonight. And how we move forward. I think there's, Terry has given us a great opportunity here. So I appreciate all the work you put into it. She's been in communication with our zoning attorney as well. So we have some of those questions answered, but Terry, so.
Okay, the last time I came as the planning commission chair to talk to you guys about this, you wanted Ben to come to our next meeting, which he did, our fire chief, and he had quite a few suggestions, which I put into the chart that we have been keeping that compares our town to other towns that have already done this. And so I also talked to regional about it, and Martha suggested that West Windsor had just passed this ordinance. And so I started with their document and plugged in the things that we had decided with Ben, and I sent it to Ben and to Brendan, and Ben had some more suggestions. So today I through the telephone, I met with Chris Callahan, our town lawyer, and he had gone through the entire document. So we went over it together, and I had forwarded Ben's email also. Is it okay if I call you Ben? Should I call you Chief? Okay. And he said that Ben's ideas in the email were things that we should definitely change in this ordinance. So we went ahead and changed some of those. Probably the only thing that we didn't change, Ben, was the definition of dwelling unit, because that's the definition that when I met with Rose, in between that I also met with Rose, and we went through the whole document. She said we should take it directly from our zoning, which Chris Callahan also agreed. So the first change would be, instead of calling it homesteaded, we would call it hosted, but we would require the homesteader document that you get when you do your taxes in order to be hosted. Because Ben said that a lot of people in Chester, well, not a lot of people, but some people in Chester, their idea of hosted was not really hosted. They weren't there most of the year as we're requiring. The next change that he suggested was, Scott had a question about liability. Ben had agreed with the planning commission that we did need to have an insurance requirement, and the $1 million insurance requirement was what I had put in the ordinance. He said the town is not liable for anything over that. He said the town immunity is limited at $100,000, and it dates back to sovereign immunity and the King of England, and if it exceeds our insurance, the limit takes precedence. So he can never be sued for more than $100,000. And he didn't know exactly what the town insurance was, but was pretty sure it would be a lot more than that. Another thing he suggested is that applications should include the homesteader declaration, the wastewater permit information, the sewer allocation, and the lister's card. That should be asked for within the application. The next part he suggested, and right now I'm looking at section 3D on page 3. The next thing he suggested is, we have that whole section there about sewer allocation and wastewater permits. He suggested to pick whichever is lowest and the most restrictive. And he really thinks that we should base it on 2 occupants. Occupancy is really important, that we have to define occupancy as 2 per bedroom, because he said that those loft rooms that have like 14 beds or whatever them, if our real focus is fire safety, that is not going to fly at all in any case. And he said we really should have a really good definition of occupancy, and suggested 2 per bedroom. And I talked to him about how these other towns have 2 per bedroom plus 2 more. Because I know we talked about in the planning commission about how you might have a baby or a toddler in your bedroom with you. And he said, the fire chief or whoever goes and inspect would understand that, and it didn't need to be written in that you can have another 2 also, that would be understood. Let's see, what else did he say? Most importantly, we need to find a system to determine occupancy. And the next idea he had was that to get people to sign on to it, if we do create a registry, he said that if you said by the first year, if they registered by September 1st, take $100 off their fee, the $300 fee I'm suggesting here, and the $600 fee for people that are unhosted. And I think that's about it. And I'm going to meet with Rose this week on Wednesday afternoon and go over what he suggested, because she and I, we met before on this ordinance, and she changed quite a few things on it too when we met. So what I would suggest is I'm hoping to aim for a public hearing in July if you decide to want an ordinance for the town of Ludlow. And we need to warn it for 30 days. So if we did also talk about this in June, if if whatever happens after I get done talking here, I could also come to your meeting in June and we'd still have time to warn, and I would have, the documents ready for that. Does anybody have any questions for me before I go park it?
Thank you, Ms. Carter.
Okay.
Thoughtful and insightful on the detail here. And thanks to everybody else involved with working on this. My question is, it looks like we took this from other towns and then adapted it towards our needs.
Yeah, I took it from the West Windsor one because it had been vetted by a lawyer.
Were there any additions or tweaks that the Planning Commission wanted to add into this because we wanted to take a local approach to it?
Yeah, we started out with that, which I came to you the first time. We started out with the planning commissions, and since then, I've just collected a whole lot more information. I've met with a whole lot more people, and so that's why these changes will go into this document for next time.
So we spoke about the self-certifying letter with 8 or under.
Right, but the self-certifying would only be the first year, and then with the guarantee it would be inspected within 3 to 5 years.
So,
and that they will be open to any spot inspections, which is also in here, and that Ben, was on
meaning
definitely on
that they
board
could
with.
just show up and inspect?
Yeah, at a moment's notice, within a 15-minute drive.
My question is, self-certification is only allowed for the first year. Inspections by the fire marshal or local fire certified personnel shall occur within a 3 to 5 year period. What happens in that gray area between year 2 and 3 and before?
Well, hopefully,
inspection?
it's, for the first year to the 5th year. We just don't know exactly how many yet and, what that's going to involve, but definitely going for being open to inspections at any time and re-inspected every 3 to 5 years after the initial inspection.
Mr. Whalen, is it commonplace to do spot inspections?
I have not seen the document since the initial rough draft, so I don't know what's in there now. My thought process is I was thinking about time, so travel time for someone to be able to get to a structure. That's more based on the fact of emergency services go to a structure and, do we have a key holder and then a point of contact for what we do if we show up and there's 20 people in a place that has occupancy of 8. And so I think that would be more of my thought on that spot inspection. I'm not necessarily thinking as much of a spot inspection, but if we take over fire safety responsibilities and we receive a complaint, we then need to be able to follow up on that. So in order to make it so that we as the AHJ authority having jurisdiction have some type of teeth, how do we go about that? And I talked a bit about that in my notes. I'm not sure what's there now.
I think that if you show up at a fire emergency or any sort of emergency, we need to have a contact on file that we can get, and we need to have the documentation and the certification.
So yes, there has to be a point of contact, and I feel fortunate in how quickly some of our key holders are able to get to the facilities within Ludlow. Being a select board member in Chester, when this was adopted there, we made that you had to be within the county of Windsor, I think is how we wrote that at that point. And I wasn't thinking about it at that time as a fire safety concept, right? So if we send the fire department out at 2:00 in the morning and we say that they can come from anywhere in Windsor or Windham counties, that could be an hour
Yeah.
plus before they show up. So I think giving that time constriction on how long till they can be there is more based on getting better access and working with emergency services.
I like that. I don't know about the other members of the board. Maybe some clarifying language just in that paragraph that would say what represents a spot inspection, or what necessitates an emergency response and the protocols there. Thank you both.
Yeah, I guess I still question the occupancy based on bedrooms. If I put in a sprinkler system, I go through Division of Fire Safety, I am certified up to 16 people, but I only have 3 bedrooms. I just invested $100,000 into making my place good to go and safe, and then our ordinance negates that. Rule of thumb, typically it kind of makes sense, but I think having occupancy based on the fire safety is key there. I'd like our board here to come up with a firm action of are we wanting to pursue a rental registry, long-term, short-term, or we're pursuing the short-term registry, because it's gone back and forth, and I think the Planning Commission needs a firm direction when it comes to that.
It's my understanding that long-term rentals already have a set of regulations involved at the fire level and at the state level.
So do short-term rentals. It's the same code.
Same code for both.
Yep.
And this code for the short-term rentals came in a couple years ago
No.
at the state level.
Ben?
We'll see if I get my statutes and stuff right here. It's been a bit. 24 VSA 173 defines what a public building is, and based on that, it then turns that with the Vermont Fire and Life Safety Code, bases occupancy into several different sections, but there's nothing in there that says whether or not it's short-term or long-term. Within the statute, it actually says whether it's rented for 1 day or greater, it has to meet that same code. As you look at different occupancies, the difference being in a short-term rental, so like I go rent a place on 123 Main Street, and I'm just throwing out a number there. The idea is that if I am simply staying there for a night, that I do not have the wherewithal as a resident there that night to know how to react in an emergency. Whereas if I am staying there long-term, I know the layout, and therefore I should be able to more appropriately and safely get out of that structure in an emergency. In general, though, the code is the same. The main difference would be if it is a long-term situation, like my family rents this house, right? So it's my family, I am in this house, it is my long-term place. It may be looked at differently as far as the occupancy level of it based on it is my family living within that dwelling. It is still a rental and would still have to meet the classifications due to that statute to be occupancy of 1 to 8, 9 to 16, or 16 and greater. And then also if it's a single family, a 1 and 2 family, or an apartment building.
Thank you. I think we've been working on this for a lot of years, and it's always been kind of flip-flopping between long-term, short-term, both. I think an all-inclusive is something to definitely look at. Why should short-term rentals have to, play by a certain amount of rules when long-term rentals don't? I think that's cause for consideration myself.
I think it'll make it simpler.
Yeah.
Just having both of them be treated equal.
Ms. Carter, may I ask you a question about section 4, line B?
Section 4?
Yep, line B. Mr. Schmidt just made mention of this, and I just want to read it out loud so I can understand it. The dwelling unit capacity of a short-term rental shall have a maximum of 2 occupants per bed space.
And the lawyer suggested we change that all to bedroom and not bed space.
Yeah, because bed space is
Yeah, I
open-ended.
should have mentioned that.
Bedroom,
And then we should define bedroom.
and what would a bedroom be? X amount of square footage for, sometimes
Well,
do
he's
they want
suggesting
2
a
queen
bedroom
rooms?
should not have more than 2 people in it. That's what he's saying, is if you're really concerned about fire safety, that's how you should go. He said that if you don't want to do it by occupancy of bedrooms, you could do it by sewer allocation, because the town has a right to enforce that. And he's sending me a link that we could put right into this ordinance to show that.
Mr. Whalen. Thank you, Ms. Whalen.
I don't mean for the back and forth, so I apologize for that. I made comments on the rough draft that I saw, and I suggested the occupancy based off of NFPA 101, the life safety code.
One more question for you, Ben, while you're up to make you not run. So in the spirit of, it seems like potentially having both long-term and short-term, with the eventual goal that or Ludlow Fire Department become responsible for those life safety things, having that same capability that's proposed to do that if a complaint comes in for a long-term rental is the same as with a short-term rental?
Yeah, it would have to meet the same code requirements. Okay. As we think about that, I just, again, the concept that I would look at this is feasibility wise, right? So are we capable of going and performing the inspections that we are going to require get done? Do I think we can work to that? Yes, I think that is part of that purpose of that 1 to 5 year transition, is to make sure that we're capable of those things. But that's...
Right, I understand that's what the goal is, right? But like once the goal is achieved, having that same teethy language that you referenced for the short term.
Correct. So if
is
someone...
the same language you would want for the long term.
It would be exactly the same. And, the board may choose to look at if, are we going to do fees for those things, or are we simply just going to ensure that there's proper life safety requirements into those places, and as complaints come in, we can locally go respond to those.
Thank you.
Mr. Whalen, one last one, sorry. You made mention of the NFP 101 life safety code. Can you walk me through what that is per bedroom?
So as a fire marshal, I would base occupancy on the amount of beds. It didn't matter if what was a bedroom or what was not a bedroom. So
amount of beds versus square footage or something?
Correct. So a occupancy, if I walk into a structure, I count occupancy based on bed spaces. So a twin would be considered as a single occupant. A full size or larger would be considered as 2. So whether or not it was a full or a California king that had some giant things off of it, it still counts as 2. And to what Noah was saying, that way if someone does have, I'll use the example that you brought up, ma'am. So if we go into a structure that has a sprinkler system and it has a room full of bunk beds, that may be okay. If you go into a structure that doesn't have that, it may not be okay. So if you're making the investment to have all the life safety requirements for that occupancy level, then you're meeting that safety wise. And that's, as I'm looking at it, it's entirely based on life safety.
I agree with that. And I think occupants per square footage is a nice way to understand what the life safety goals look like.
It would be really hard to do it on square footage itself. I think the fire marshal's office will be looking at it based on beds, and I would personally recommend that moving forward with this, if that's how we go about it.
So if we have a 500 square foot bedroom and there's 1 full bed in there, and they say, hey, I want to put 2 full beds in there, what would be the ramifications or understanding of that?
So every living space, and that can be a bedroom or simply a room, is required to have a primary and secondary means of escape. Then there's a whole bunch of caveats of what doesn't meet those requirements. As an example, if you have a one room apartment that has one door that goes to the outside, that's all you need. As long as you had 8 or less. At the same time, then if you have more than that, you would need there's a whole bunch of different stuff within NFPA 101 that deciphers how all those things work. But theoretically, you could have a 500 square foot bedroom and have that be the only room and have a full bed. That could be fine. That would be an occupancy of 2. You could have 4 of those beds in there and have an occupancy of 8 or less. If you had 5 of those, you would then be at 10, and then need to meet a different set of codes.
Okay, thank you.
Where do we want to go with this?
I think we keep moving forward with it. I think the Planning Commission and Ms. Carter in particular presented a good document for us. We've been working diligently on it. And I think your timeline is public hearing in July.
Hopefully.
So, Mr. McNamara, you're looking for a general consensus on
No, I think, we have a meeting in 2 weeks, another board meeting. And I'm just trying to understand, so board is thinking about simplifying it and making this a rental rather than short-term versus long-term. Is that what I'm taking? Okay. The only other thing, from my purview, my concerns right up from the get are not necessarily about the registry. It's more the operations and the funding side of things, obviously. How it's admin, how it's enforced, what are our capabilities? I think Chief spoke to it, that are we able to do the inspections that we're requiring? And I think we're working towards this. It's going to take some time. And as we know, along with this comes the financial side of things, because we're going to need the software. We're going to need, I think the software was 27,000 a year. But we also have to have the personnel to do that, which we have not budgeted for. So I just think that, and that's something that as we move forward, we can look at. I think it will have to, as we move forward with this, we just have to be aware of the timeline and what necessarily our restrictions are. Obviously, I don't think that this is, and maybe I'm wrong, financially, is it something that could be, this could be maybe instituted a year from now. I don't know just financially how we could do it. It could be completely wrong. But it might take us that long anyways, with hearings. And, I've come to find out myself how long things take with everything. So that's just, I will continue working with Terry, and we'll work through it with Chief Whale and the Planning Commission, and we'll come back. I would, just for the trustees are going to be in the same position, right? Because we're doing, so they're going to have this tomorrow. Then, because of the way the meetings fall, we have a week, end of this week, all of next week, then the 1st of June, we have back-to-back meetings there. I would like to, ask that we be in a pretty solid position to, in June to say, yep, let's continue. We can start talking with, if there's anything, take some time to digest what we have here, bring it and say, all right, now we can maybe look at public meetings. I'll have some maybe info on exactly what a longer term, the admin side of things would look like. I can get my head around that.
I think it's important to have the Planning Commission start to understand what the administrative side looks like. I know the Select Board appointed a short-term rental registry committee a few years ago. I was chair of that. We ended up going through a bunch of different companies, understanding what the AI and the software can do, and then working with the company with liaisons and officers and other things that can be commissioned for these types of things. So
And I think it's
beneficial to do that.
I think it's key for us, and this is me putting on my, community-based town manager hat, where we need the software. If we're going to do this, we need the software and we need the integration for the oversight, because that's what they do. But we also need someone who is, in town when if someone calls and has a problem, that's who they're coming to see. It's a face in an office that they're going to come see. Most things may be able to be settled over, by calling, if it's Granicus or whoever, and say, hey, this is my thing, great, this is what you have to do, bing, bang, boom. But, there are other folks, as well they should, when they have an issue or a concern, they're coming to see, whether it's me or whoever it is, they're coming into the town hall to see someone. And we just have to be sure of how we do that. And I'm not prescribing that I have an answer to that right now, but.
Be nice to look at what the hours are required.
Exactly. And that's
pays.
something I think you can tailor and fit together with, you say, all right, we have someone that's either, the liaison for the company is doing the inspections, whether that's tailored into another department. I don't know, but that's definitely, it's important to have the proverbial boots on the ground in Ludlow.
Yeah.
For someone to be able to contact if they
I think
have.
understanding
that's a huge
the cost of it, how much it costs to service the program, run the registry, and also potentially hire that person. So,
Will we also get a new document with the changes, clarifications that we've mentioned?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
we'll make
Okay.
some of these changes and then we'll
So
send
preliminary,
that out. And
preliminary plan.
we'll put it on, and
changes.
once we have it,
Okay.
we'll send it to the board and put it on the website so folks have it, and move forward from there.
Okay, thank you. Moving on, consider formation of tree advisory committee and appoint members.
So I will defer to Mr. Carter on this. This is something we've been talking about, and I want to start by thanking Phil. Phil's really done a lot of work on something that, especially with the, we've said emerald ash borer is something that we say and necessarily don't, well, it'll get here when it gets here, and it's coming. And the impacts financially to the town of when it comes are going to be significant. So it's something that I think a lot of towns, us included, have been a little bit behind on, just because I think a lot of things it takes a back seat to. But I thank Phil for his work and, pushing and asking to form a committee that we have a list of members here that we would like to appoint, that this will be a subcommittee of the town, subject to open meeting law, et cetera, that will then report to the select board on their decision, on their recommendations, and how we're going to get out in front of not just the emerald ash borer, but Phil was telling me about a whole other bunch of bugs that can't pronounce that are coming as well. So thank you, Phil.
Let me introduce you to our new friend, what he does under the bark of an ash tree. So, we've been talking about a tree committee, a tree advisory board. Mount Holly calls it their Nature Conservancy, something like that. These boards exist all over the place. We're way behind the 8 ball. I sent you guys in the packet this little thing from East Montpelier, this little management plan. It's actually worth reading. They're 4 years ahead of us. This is what they're doing 4 years ago. So it kind of shows you where we're at. You have in your packet the Tree Advisory Board mission statement. I kind of cobbed that together from a few towns, nothing fancy, but it says what the board could do and what it should do. This isn't just about EAB, Emerald Ash Borer. It's about a number of things. Just to start, I want to say that I've met with everybody I can think of that would have an interest in this. or a piece of the pie. I met with Ron, Highway Department, Kevin, Buildings and Grounds. Brendan so much he closes his door when he sees me coming.
That's not true.
Streetscapes, Nick, on the rec, and so on. Everybody that might have a piece of this, because our urban forest is at risk, and our urban forest needs to be managed. We have a huge forest here in Ludlow. It's just spread out. It's all over the place. The board would do a number of things aside from EAB. And just to go back to EAB for a second, let you know that it has been confirmed in Grafton. It's been when I say confirmed, this is by a state biologist. Confirmed in Grafton. These are the newest, Newfane and Reading. So we don't know what kind of time we have. We could have 10 years. The beetle itself only moves a few miles a year, but it moves a lot further in someone's firewood. We might have 10 years, we might have 10 days, we have no idea. We have to start thinking ahead and get ready for this as a town. And there are things that we can do. There's things that can help us. The Vermont Agency of Agriculture. Vermont Urban and Community Forestry Program is part of that. They'll come to Ludlow. I've already been in touch with them. They'll come down and train us how to do ash tree inventories. They'll provide the software, the training. It's free of charge, won't cost us a thing. And they'll show us how to do ash tree inventories. And this is the beginning step to see what we have out there. Again, in East Montpelier, they did one road and had 2,800 ash trees on it. But they want us to have a process in place, and part of that process is having a tree advisory board or a tree committee. Again, you can call it a cheeseburger, but that's what it is. And when I was in touch with them, they said, that's your first step, is to establish that board, and then we'll go from there. I'm going to go to a conference at the end of the month up in Randolph. They will be there. They're putting the conference on. They should be there. And I'll get a lot more information and maybe set up some training dates for them to come down here. If we pull this together, I'd like to maybe get Plymouth involved and Cavendish. We're all in the same boat. We're all in the same boat. It's going to cost us some money. That's your trip, not mine, but it's going to cost us some money. South Hero estimated that for every tree that had to come down with a bucket truck, it cost them $2,000. It's that kind of money. Tentatively, my thought was to begin an ash tree inventory this summer after we have the training. If, again, we pull all this together tonight, and maybe try to identify the top 100 or so trees that would pose the most threat initially. And, you know, just to identify where they are. The software program, there'll be GPS. It'd be open to the public. Ron and Kevin both thought that that was the best way to go with the GPS as opposed to a paper sheet right now by hand. So, and it would be public information. Anybody could see what the inventory is, where the trees are, the health of the trees, the size of the trees, all that would be uploaded and put right in there. And then we could, then I would mark the trees. So that if Ron or his crew goes out and they're working the road, they would see which tree has been marked and which tree has been identified. And this is just ash trees. We haven't even talked about beech leaf disease. That's coming. Or in the hemlocks, the woody adelgid, other invasives, or good things that this board would be responsible for. Somebody approached and said they like the idea of a community orchard, maybe tree plantings, these types of things. To establish a mechanism for the public to, instead of calling Ron or Brendan, to call the tree advisory board or contact the tree advisory board with questions or information. We could put out educational materials to the public. There's nothing like that happening in this town at this moment. So people just, you know, would probably link it to the town's website somehow. So people could go to that part of the website and have information, educational pieces, you know, just starting to put all this together. We have to develop an EAB plan. And again, that's what I gave you with the East Montpelier sheet. That kind of refers to their plan as to what they're doing. We had a chance to go after $24,000 grant for tree removal. I went after it, and the first thing they told me is, well, send us your ash tree inventory, or your ash tree, inventory. We don't have one. So that 24 grand wasn't available to us. It's a bigger world out there. I know people don't think about this stuff, but you're gonna be thinking about it pretty soon. So we've been talking about forming a tree committee. The people whose names you have on the sheet in front of you have contacted me with an interest to be part of this committee and to get it started. 7 people. Most of the tree committees in Vermont are 7-member. There are some 10 members. I don't care, it can be 100. People come, people go. But we want to get it going and start these processes and getting a handle on this, maybe get ahead of it before it gets ahead of us with just this one pest. So basically that's where I'm at. You know, we've talked about establishing this board. The people are willing to step up and do it. It's in front of you. I'm asking you to create the board tonight, appoint these members, and let us get to work. And it's a learning process. I never did this before. It's all new, but it takes a burden off the highway department. It takes a burden off of Brendan. It's just another piece of the pie that we can be available to the public for issues. I guarantee you, when we start marking trees, if you come out of your driveway and see paint on your tree, you're going to be calling somebody. It's just the way it is. Montpelier, I watched a Across the Fence show this morning. Montpelier, when they marked their trees, they said that was a really important piece, is to let the public know what you're doing, how to contact the municipality with questions, concerns, and take that burden off your Department of Public Works and so on. So that's kind of an overview of what we want to do. We're all new at it. You're in the same boat we're in. So that's what I'm asking for, is create a committee, appoint these people, and let us get to work.
Okay. Do I have a motion to appoint the list that he is?
Do you want me to?
So
I would request, just so we have it, the tree advisory board, 7, I'd start with a 7-member committee so we have a number. I think that this is.
Do you want a
good start.
motion to create a board?
Yeah,
Okay.
and I would,
Second, then we'll read the members.
yes.
Okay, so I'll make a motion that we create a 7-member tree advisory board.
Do I have a second? Second. Open for discussion.
Brendan, do we have money that we set aside for tree?
$2,500.
We set aside some funds for last budget season. We started funding some of because we knew we were going to be headed in this direction.
Yeah.
It was $2,500. So
And is that, Phil, what kind of, like, the software to do the GPS tracking and stuff, like, do we have any costs
No,
to kind of get this thing
no, you
off
can
the
do it
ground?
on an iPhone.
Cool.
That's what they told me.
Yeah.
I said, okay, so they'll come down and do the training for free. They'll give us links to the GPS, the whole data thing. They'll show us how to use the data, what it can do for us. I have a million questions for these people. I don't see the point, just me personally, I don't see the point of like walking up Commonwealth Avenue and inventorying every single ash tree. You'll have thousands on your map. What's the point of that? But if I went up to Commonwealth and I drove along and said, oh, look at that one. And look at that one over there. That's a whole different approach. To me, that makes sense. But when I talk to the people that know what they're talking about in a couple of weeks, maybe it won't make sense at all to them. I'll find out. As I say, this is a learning experience. It's one step at a time, but we have to take these steps. This is going to cost us some money. We're going to have to take some trees. And I hate that thought. Not every single tree dies, by the way. There are some white ash that are not susceptible to the EAB. So we don't want to run out there and take every ash tree right off the bat, because some may have disease resistance to this, like the chestnut did. When chestnut blight came back in the day, they took all the chestnuts out and then found out after they did it that there were some chestnuts that survived the blight. Then they went out and had a massive effort through the forest to try to find these disease-resistant chestnuts. Those are the ones, the genetics of those trees are now in nurseries because they're going to try to repopulate the chestnut tree in America. So we want to be careful, but there's so much to learn, and there's and I have 7 people that are willing to step up and help out. So,
What are your? I'm gonna piggyback on Noah's question. What are your anticipated ancillary costs?
I don't have
any.
any.
None.
No.
It will just come down to tree removal, which
It'll come down.
the one thing that I think you mentioned or didn't mention about the cost is if we wait and all the trees die, the cost goes up.
He alluded to that with the
You did,
South Hero,
right? They're like bucket truck, right?
Mhm.
And so if we can take those trees, let's just say next year or the following year, I've talked a lot about with Phil, is that there's trees that the town will be liable for if we can take them now at a lower cost. And there's even avenues potentially where we maybe don't even have to pay, or we find someone who's willing to take it, that where after it we have EAB, that it could be thousands that we just have to add to the budget that we could have potentially not have to do now. Which I think that alone, potential savings, needless of everything else, which I think is great that Phil's trying to do, that alone is a huge financial burden that we.
And I think that, Phil mentioned something. He said, what are going to be the costs? It's really, it is kind of unknown, because what Phil said earlier is we don't know if we don't have to deal with taking the trees for 10 years and we're able to budget for it for 10 years, we're in a pretty good position. If that happens to be August, then we have a different problem on our hands. But I think this is, Phil's done a tremendous amount of work to handle something that necessarily isn't
Also
all
to
that well
further
talked
education. So thank you.
And kind of what I was getting at is wanting to make sure you have the energy in this drive. I want to make sure you have the support. And if you said, oh, we have this training and we need to make sure we have some funds here, stuff like that, I want to make sure you have the road to run with.
Yeah, I'll let you know. But I don't see any costs at this point. I think the most important thing is to establish the board, get us up and running. And we just start brainstorming as to which way to go and contact the people that know what they're doing. Some towns have hired loggers to take their trees and actually made money off of it. So there's just so much out there that we have to explore. And if I'm not able to do it for whatever reason, you fire me, I quit, whatever, the process is still going on. You have a board it's still going on. Always want your tree warden on that board. That's part of the trip that these guys from the Agency of Urban Forests want. But it's not any type of thing to step on anyone's toes. We're not trying to circumvent Ron or Kevin or anything like that. Everybody that I talk to has been positive. I've not heard one person say that's not a good idea. Who doesn't love trees, and want to do the right thing? So that's why I came down tonight. Plus, Terry told me she's going to take me to DJ's if I did. So.
Only if you did a good performance, though.
Thank you, Phil.
Thank you, Mr. Carter.
I have a motion and a second.
Yeah.
For it.
Yeah, no, I'm going to wait and hear what they say, but I'm going to take my buddy back. He's around.
No, she's got it. So we got a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? Being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Guys opposed? Guys have it.
Now we want
We're
to
gonna
appoint.
So I would ask that the board make the following appointments. I will read them all. Charlotte Galley, Jeanette Riccardio, Gene Strong, Pat Archambault, Andrea Whitman, George Tucker, and Phil Carter.
We have a motion.
A motion as read.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Guys opposed? Guys have it. There, you have your board. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Phil.
you.
Thanks, Phil.
Health officer position.
So last week, our health officer, Mr. Alden, resigned his position as health officer. So we just need we just need to accept his resignation. So we need a motion and a second to do that.
Make a motion to accept Eric Alden's resignation as town health officer.
Second.
Any discussion? Being no discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Guys opposed? Ayes have it.
Second, who wants to be the health officer?
Brendan McNamara.
I believe by statute, I think it defaults to the chair of the select board. I have your badge downstairs.
I
So,
resign.
so,
Is that,
huh?
is that writable that, or you?
No.
I did reach out to Brennan and show some interest, and I would take that on if we need someone to do that.
A motion.
Better make a motion.
Do a quick,
You got
quick.
a motion right here.
Second.
Second.
Here.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Guys opposed? Guys have, we got a new health officer.
So easy.
Give you your badge in a little while.
Okay, moving on. Okemo seasonal summer update. Bruce.
I was a health officer. You don't want that job.
Should have got to him earlier.
Yeah, I didn't
Too late now.
teach you that well, I guess. Thank you very much, Bruce Schmidt, Vice President, General Manager for Okemo, and I live at 988 Chapman Road. So I wanted to thank you for giving me time to talk and talk about the season with Okemo. The season was it was successful, but we did have some weather challenges. There was no early snow in November, as you all know. We got opened on December 1st, and the season progressed well. It was 9 days later than our scheduled opening. But despite the later start, the team worked hard to get the mountain open. We expanded terrain, and had some good comments about the skiing. On January 22nd, we saw the team get 100% open, and we received about 130 inches of snow, with a majority of it in January and February. When I was here in the fall, we talked about some of the new, things that we did with the new snow guns that we had. Really made a difference, for us. Of course, spring, really saw no snow in March and April, and we ended up with a 134-day season that, probably could have, if we had gotten some, early, got some snow during that time. I think it would have really been a real good pop to the end. We actually, looking at the records, we actually had more snow in April than we did in March, this year, but many of you already know that. Want to really take the time to publicly thank the support that we received from the town and village of Ludlow. Brendan, as the town and village manager, former police chief Jeff Billings, Chief Whalen with the fire department and now overseeing EMS, Stephanie Grover with ambulance coordinator, Ronnie Tarble, the highway department, and now now we'll be working with new police chief Warfel. And then we also work closely with the rec department and Nick Mealy. We're working with doing the July 4th celebration for the community, at Okemo. So we're really excited about being part of that. And, just thanks to all the employees for keeping the traffic moving, supporting with the permit and planning office, town clerk, and especially all of you as select board members. It starts here, and we appreciate the support that that we get. I wanted to share some some of the support that Okemo does with grant and donations in education in the region, as well as the school ski programs. Our main community focus is with social services, including support for mental health, including support for local nonprofits and also local schools. We do contribute to playground fundraisers, science-based education programs. During FY24, the access and community giving, we gave with in-kind and cash donations over $73,000. The partners that we had included HCRS, which is Healthcare and Rehab Services of Southern Vermont. We had Okemo Mountain School, Black River Good Neighbors, Chester Andorra Family Center, the Expeditionary School at Black River, Green Up Vermont, Ludlow Rotary, Ludlow Elementary, and the Springfield Family Center. I'm really proud of the support we give to the local school programs. This season, we had 12 schools in the program with 540 participants per week. Okemo provides free lessons for the first 2 weeks, and there can be more. We can work out a program more if they're requested, but most of the time they they only need a couple weeks. We go Monday through Thursday, with Tuesday being the biggest day with 140 students. We do offer up to 8 weeks, but most schools with their vacations and like that, they choose 6 weeks. We do have a program fee of $35 and a rental fee of $60, but many of the programs get grants to cover the cost, and we're also looking at using some of that money that we talked about in kind to cover some of the costs in the future. And our team sets up programs in November and fits the skis and snowboards for the students. And it's just a really great program that we're able to continue to provide. I wanted to mention a little bit about sustainability. That's a real big thing with recycling and trying to do better with that. We're seeing right now a 32% decrease year to date, and we're close to our goal. Last year we did 96 tons of recycling and 96,000 tons of recycling, and we're looking at right now around 66 tons. We've implemented a new durable system with food and beverage, and we decreased the number of disposable items. We're also looking at separating out waste from the hotel, and we're tracking that, to be separate and do a better job of recycling. And we're also looking to upgrade some of our sorting stations for this coming year. We're going to be opening on the 14th of June, going into the summer with our summer activities. We'll be coming back again with the Friday night concerts, and Camp Okemo, which is very close to being filled, starts on June 23rd. And that's been a real big program because we do provide daycare for community and employees. And we have this camp that goes on during the summer for that. So just want to stress again the collaboration with the town, Village Ludlow, the Okemo Valley Regional Chamber of Commerce, and other community partners. The success that we have is directly related to the support that all of you give, to us. So thank you for letting me talk a little bit. And if there's any questions, I'll try to answer them.
Any questions? Thank you. Well, thank you, Bruce, for what you guys do for the town.
Thank you.
I appreciate everything Okemo does as a community member as well. My one question is, I was a lot younger back in the day. Has it always been 6 to 8 weeks, or was it longer?
I think it's always been around 8 weeks.
Wow.
I don't necessarily, I don't know what it was when I did it. But it's usually around then. And then if a school requests to go another week because of, we will usually figure that out. If they had 8 weeks and they couldn't go because of no school one day, we try to figure it out and give them another week sometime.
I think that is one of the most important programs in our community. So thank you.
Yeah, and we do, we do regional, and we really focus on. We hear a lot about, just kind of right in this area, but, we go all the way down, to Putney. School comes up. They have some kids in the program. They used to have one in St. Mary's over in Claremont. I don't know if that still is part of it, but, it's just great to have over 500 kids out skiing every week, skiing and snowboarding.
It helps the culture.
it helps the culture, and you get volunteers that really help, and it's just been good. So
Thank you.
okay, thank you very much.
I just reiterate kind of what Bruce touched on, and I kind of, as the season came to an end, I kind of had like a reflection on it too, that, you know, how busy we get in town over the course of the winter, whether that's, you know, a holiday week or a weekend, it is really substantial. And everything that either happens in town or happens on the mountain really has a direct cause and effect with each other. And, you know, I'd like to, you know, I thank Bruce and John Neal as well, because the communication that we have is so good at this point that, you know, if there's an issue, it almost never gets seen, and it's dealt with between a few people. And, you know, I'm thankful for that, because it makes my life a lot easier, and things are taken care of before it becomes a possibly a much bigger problem, whether that's, you know, a department in here, whether it's the police, fire department, ambulance, things that are need to be dealt with or dealt with immediately and expedited. So, you know, I'd echo that and thank Bruce for, you know, all he does.
Okay. Moving on, review town village charter proposal.
So you have, we had our meeting for the, you know, the first kind of public meeting for the charter village. We had the joint meeting last week on, was that the 12th? Was last Tuesday.
The 13th.
13th. So I thought we had a very good meeting. Turnout wasn't huge, but we had full boards for both boards. We're able, Sarah Buxton, who is our attorney that is handling the merger process, was here, and I thought we had a good look at it. I got today the updated version of the charter, which you all have. For those of you who want it, it will be available on the website tomorrow. There will be two versions on the website. There will be the new clean version as well as the red line version, so you can contrast and compare what changes were made from the other night. This is the same thing that will be happening tomorrow at the trustees meeting. They have the same copy. You know, there weren't a lot of changes that were made at that. Some of it were about really what we took away was the ability to move forward and to not basically hamstring ourselves to one thing. If we want to continue to grow, we can do that. So those changes were made, you know, like select board going from 5 to 7, if we wanted to do that, and really being able to make changes to the charter without having to go through the entire process again. I think that's important. So again, you have this in front of you. It will be on the website tomorrow. If anybody wants both copies, I can email you directly. I ask that the boards take some time to digest it, review it. We come back in June. At that point, if we don't have any changes, and if there are changes that you want to make, you can send them to me individually. At that point in June, we will have a proposed vote by the board, by the select board at your Monday meeting. That's the village, their Tuesday meeting. If those votes are in the positive and the affirmative to move forward to present this draft, then we take a big step in presenting it to the public. We start the public informational meetings. There's a very, you know, delineated time frame of how things have to happen. So that's really all I have on this. You know, I was hoping to get it to you sooner, but I got it this morning at 8 o'clock. So I think it will give us some time to look it over. You know, again, I will send you the red line version as well, but those will also be available. But again, very good progress, I think, has been made. Our last meeting was very positive, and I think we're moving in, you know, a very positive direction on this.
Thank you.
Anybody got any questions? Okay, being no questions on that, we'll be moving on to municipal manager update.
So I just have a few things that I just wanted to touch base on. Obviously, the paving project is progressing through town. A lot of that work is being done at night. You can see they've got it coned off right now because they're continuing to come through. I've had run into some rain issues, but they've taken care of a lot of the spots on 100 South, trying to get through Main Street right now, hoping, and I'm going to say hoping, target, if all goes according, there's been a few hiccups, to be out of here by July is the target. The state has October, but we're shooting for earlier. Memorial Day ceremonies are this coming Monday. It's always a big thing here in town. Always enjoy going to them. They start at 9 o'clock. The parade ceremony at the Green, Veterans Park, then going to progress up to the cemetery. Next month, or in June meeting, still looking to, hopefully, we have 2 projects that are potential for the elevation funding. They're still pending reviews by historical preservation. Trustees meeting tomorrow. I only bring this up because they will be reviewing the ordinance as well. And albeit this is a village issue currently, that may become a town issue, but it's also something that has been circulating, and that is the vendor ordinance. As you see, we do have a food truck that has applied and was approved for a permit that is in the Sunoco parking lot. There is now another one that is in New England Cider Donuts parking lot.
Excuse me, where?
New England Cider Donuts. Sorry. It has been, yeah. It has been requested by a number of folks, and we've been, plugging through it to look at our vendor permit, our vendor ordinance. Not to say that anything is, that anyone, myself included, is anti-vendor, anti-food truck, or that's not the point of this, but how do you establish and protect our brick and mortar businesses in town is really what it comes down to. And this is just kind of, not saying that anything's going to change, but just revamping it. I've reached out to the Planning Commission, Planning and Zoning, Chamber of Commerce, et cetera, and I'm going to provide those notes to the trustees tomorrow, just to begin to start to look at it. But I've had conversations with a lot of folks that, this isn't just, once you start going down the rabbit hole a little bit, it opens up to a lot of different things. So again, it's just something that we've had in place, and it's just kind of starting to perk a little more interest. So as with anything, it deserves to be looked at. So I just bring that up to kind of keep on your forefront. That meeting is tomorrow, but I'm not saying come, but
I'll be there.
But I bet you will. Keep a look at the notes of the minutes, see how that progresses. That is it.
Okay. Other business? Anybody?
Review traffic studies on crosswalks. When's that being forwarded to?
We are, essentially that is also a village, going to be a village issue. Logan and I kind of talked on it today. We'll circle back, and probably one of the next June or July meetings, we'll bring that up.
Has the study been done?
No.
We do have some older traffic studies.
We do.
What year? 2018?
Might be.
2019? I guess that's something to discuss tomorrow.
Anybody else on other business? Being none, possible items for.
Brett.
Eric.
Eric.
Sorry.
Never miss my opportunity. Eric on Trailside Road. 2 items, if I could. One, I just wanted to thank new police chief, Chief Warfel, for actually updating that report for the last 25 or 30 years. The first item on that report was dead bodies, which I thought was always very insensitive. So that has been changed and moved down. I think it's death investigations now, which is a little more, it's a little nicer for the folks that are dealing with that. I'm going to repeat what I said at the last meeting, and I'll probably say at the next meeting. I would love for the board to really think about, as we move through the year, items that are going to move the needle in this town. This town's losing population every year. The state is aging. It's the first or second oldest state in the US. That's a bad combination for a small town, to lose population and to age out. This town isn't really built to be old. None of the businesses, or the majority of the businesses, are not handicap accessible. As we know, there's not a single handicap accessible spot that belongs to the town. The buildings are aging. So in addition to the tree committee, which I thought Mr. Carter did an incredible job, jump right on that, someone that enthusiastic about it. You also need a housing committee. You need a business committee. You really need a town committee to plan. The planning commission doesn't really do any planning. They're sort of just reviewing and updating. But it doesn't seem like there's any real planning for the future going on. You're just operating in 6-month increments. Soon you'll be talking about your sand bids, and then after that, your paving bids again. There's a real housing issue here. There's a real job issue here. That's, the death knell for any town. So I'd ask that you think about items that will address all those so that this town can prosper. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else on other business?
I have one. Would this board like to receive the minutes from the trustees' meetings? I've never asked you that. I know some of you get it, but would you individually like to get them?
Probably wouldn't hurt.
You know what?
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Possible items for next meeting, June 2nd.
So I have personnel policy review, town and village charter, consider approval, hopefully at that point, rental registry, and probably elevation projects funding applications.
FY budget 2.5 encumbering.
What about the RFP for the backhoe for the transfer station?
That'll be on there.
Okay.
Okay. Sign warrant order's been done. Executive session needed? No executive session needed. Need a motion to adjourn.
Also move that motion.
Second.
Second. All those in favor signify saying aye.
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 Opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.